بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم الحمد لله رب العالمين صلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين. The discussion today is about Naskhul Wujub. We are not talking about Naskh as such. Naskh means abrogation. Sometimes a ruling which is from the beginning decided to be temporary is expressed in the way that people think it's a permanent ruling. But when the time comes that this ruling was supposed to expire, another ruling comes which abrogates the first one. But in reality, the first one is not cancelled. The first one was meant to expire. Do you understand? It's not cancelled, it was meant to expire, and this is just for the time after that. The first ruling which has expired is called mansukh, abrogated. The second is called nasikh, abrogating. Okay? Now, what we want to discuss with respect to commands is this. Our concern is this one. If the abrogated ruling is wujub, obligation, and that is abrogated now, can we still understand permissibility of that action and it's only obligation which is removed, or even permissibility is under question mark? For example, let us give you an example. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, look at book Surah Mujadala verse 12. This is page 65. Surah Mujadala verse 12. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا إذا ناجيتم الرسول فقدموا بين يدي نجواكم صدقة. The ruling according to this ayah is that those who believe, when they wanted to whisper to the Prophet, they had to give sadaqah before whispering to the Prophet. ذَلِكَ خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ وَأَطْهَرٌ. This is better for you and closer to purity. فَإِن لَمْ تَجِدُوا. If you don't have money to give sadaqah, فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ غَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ. Allah is forgiving and merciful. So it means those who can afford to give sadaqah, they should give sadaqah. When the ayah was revealed, unfortunately, people didn't speak to the Prophet or whisper to the Prophet anymore. So maybe you expect more sadaqah was given. No, not more sadaqah was given. No one spoke to the Prophet except Amirul Mu'minin alayhi salam. So he used to give sadaqah and speak to the Prophet. Then the next ayah was revealed. Surah Mujadala verse 13. أَأَشْفَقْتُمْ أَن تُقَدِّمُوا بَيْنَ يَدَيْ نَجْوَاكُمْ صَدَقَاتٍ. Are you worried, are you afraid of giving sadaqah before whispering? فَإِذْ لَمْ تَفْعَلُوا وَتَابَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْكُمْ. Now that you didn't do this and God has forgiven you, فَأَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَآتُوا الزَّكَاةَ وَأَطِيعُوا اللَّهَ وَرَسُولَهُ وَاللَّهُ خَبِيرٌ بِمَا تعملون. So this ruling was removed, goes back to the normal ruling of praying and giving general zakat and obeying Allah and the Prophet. Okay, so the obligation for giving sadaqah before whispering to the Prophet is removed. Question: can we still say that giving sadaqah before whispering is permissible or not? This is the question. Of course, we are not talking about other reasons for saying that it is permissible. Just from the first verse, which is abrogated, from that we draw this conclusion that still it's permissible? This is the question. Let me first explain for you from the book the question, then we will go to the reasoning. Al-Fasl al-Sabi' Nasakh al-Wujub. The seventh chapter is about abrogation of obligation. إذا نسخ الوجوب فهل يبقى الجواز? When the obligation is abrogated, does permissibility remain or not? وَلْنُقَدِّمْ مِثَالًا مِنَ الْكِتَابِ الْعَزِيزِ. We should give in the first place, means we should first give you an example. So before we go into reasoning, let us give you an example so that you have clear idea about what is the question. Okay? Sometimes people start debating without understanding what is the question. There are people who rush in expressing their opinion without understanding what is the question. يا أيها الذين آمنوا إذا ناجيتم الرسول فقدموا بين يدي نجواكم صدقة. All those who believe, whenever you whisper to the Prophet, before whispering, give sadaqah, alms. ذلك خير لكم وأطهر. This is better for you and closer to piety. فإن لم تجدوا, if you don't find sadaqah, then فإن الله غفور رحيم. Allah is forgiving and merciful, means it's okay. You don't need to cancel talking to the Prophet if you don't have money to give. فلما نزلت الآية, when the verse was revealed, كف. كف means stopped. كثير من الناس عن النجوى. Many people stopped whispering to the Prophet, talking to the Prophet. بل كفوا عن المسألة, even they didn't ask questions. فلم يناجه أحد إلا علي بن أبي طالب. إلا علي بن أبي طالب فقدم الصدقة فناجى. He used to give sadaqah and ثم نسخت الآية بما بعدها. This ayah 12 was abrogated with the ayah 13, which is أأشفقتم أن تقدموا بين يدي نجواكم صدقات. Are you afraid, or were you afraid of giving sadaqah before whispering? The rest of ayah is there. فَذَقَعَ الْكَلَامِ. The question is this. فَذَقَعَ الْكَلَامِ is they started discussing this issue. في بقاء جواز تقديم الصدقة إذا ناجى أحد مع الرسول. Wujub is over, but the question is this: does permissibility of giving sadaqah before whispering remain? Or you may say it's even not permissible. Or you may say, we don't know. Some people say it remains permissible, some people say it's not permissible, some people may say we don't know. We have to refer to Usul al-Amaliyah, for example. Yes.
The verse itself does the verse itself indicate that it is abrogated, or do we know this from other narrations about this verse? Because this verse doesn't say now you can speak with him, for example. It says Allah has forgiven you, and and so on.
Yeah, because it says, we know from outside, but the verse also says فَإِذْ لَمْ تَفْعَلُوا وَتَابَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْكُمْ فَأَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ. Doesn't say again you have to do this. So it means that obligation is removed. Because it doesn't say still you have to do this. But we know also from other sources. هناك قولان. There are two opinions here. Is this on or off?
On.
It's very hot, huh?
Yes.
You cannot... Because Usul gives you warmth, and then this is warm, this is too warm. Okay, thank you. There are two views. هناك قولان. Thank you very much. The first view is ما اختاره العلامة في التحذيب من الدلالة على بقاء الجواز. The late Allama Hilli, in his book Tahzib, this Tahzib is not Tahzib on Hadith, this is another Tahzib. That one is by Shaykh Tusi. In his book Tahzib, he has chosen the first opinion, which is الدلالة على بقاء الجواز. It still indicates permissibility. Okay? الثاني, the second opinion, is عدم الدلالة على الجواز. It doesn't indicate permissibility. So what should we do? We go back to the condition before the abrogated verse was revealed. Do you get it?
Yes.
You have abrogating verse, you have abrogated verse, and you have a condition before the abrogated verse was revealed. According to second opinion, the abrogated verse is not indicating anything anymore with respect to what is the condition of this action. It used to indicate wujub. Wujub is abrogated, so we don't have anything left. We go back to the condition before. What was before practiced? For example, in this case, before verse 12 of Surah Mujadala was revealed, what was the situation? Giving sadaqah was okay, and sadaqah in general is mustahab. But we are not understanding that from verse 12. Verse 12 is abrogated by verse 13, so we are not going to refer to verse 12 with respect to whether it is mustahab, it's permissible, it's not permissible. No. We go back to the condition before verse 12 was revealed. Those who have preferred the first view, what is the first view? Permissibility. They say the abrogated verse indicates permissibility. They have argued in this way. They have argued in this way. They say the ayah 12 of Surah Mujadala, for example, or anything similar to that, قَدِّمُوا بَيْنَ يَدَيْ نَجْوَاكُمْ صَدَقَةً. You must give sadaqah before whispering the Prophet. How many things you understand? If you want to analyze, they say you understand three things. Permissibility of giving sadaqah, first. Second, preferability, tarjih of giving sadaqah. And third, obligatory nature of giving sadaqah. Al-Jawaz, wal-Rujhan, wal-Wujub. These are three things that after analyzing قدموا can be distinguished. Tarjih, which is better. So giving sadaqah is permissible. Giving sadaqah is better. Giving sadaqah is actually necessary. So any wujub after analysis can be divided into 3 points. When something is wajib, means it is permissible, it's jaiz. It is rajih, it is better, and indeed it is necessary. So, these people say, okay, wujub indicates after analysis 3 things. Which one is certainly abrogated? Necessity. Necessity is cancelled, but what about the other 2? So not only permissibility remains, perhaps even istihbab remains. It's better. At least it's permissible. This is the argument of the people who choose the first view, that after abrogation still it indicates permissibility. Ustudilla. Ustudilla, what does it mean? It has been argued. It's majhul, yeah? Passive, it's majhul. Ustudilla lil qawl al-awwal. It has been argued for the first opinion, بأن المنسوخ, the one which has been abrogated, because it used to indicate wujub. لما دل على الوجوب. Yeah? It used to indicate wujub. قدموا بين يدي نجواكم صدقة used to indicate 3 things. كون تقديم الصدقة جائزا. First, giving sadaqah in advance is permissible. Second, كونه أمرا راجعا. It was preferable. راجح, rujhan. Rujhan means to prefer. Rajih means preferable. Okay? Third, كونه أمرا لازما. It was necessary. It was obligatory. What we are 100% sure that is cancelled and abrogated is which of these 3? The last one, the third one, wujub. القدر المتيقن من دليل الناسخ هو رفع خصوص الإلزام. What is certainly cancelled because of the second dalil, the dalil which indicates nasikh, the abrogating ayah. Dalilun nasikh means the ayah which is abrogating. Okay? What we certainly understand from that is that ilzam is removed, obligation is removed. Amma ma ada, but other than obligation, the second and the first, so we don't have any dalil, any reason that we must cancel them as well. So they remain as they are. You have a question?
See, in the first surah, it is already given people who can't afford that God will forgive them.
Yeah.
So it is already meant that they've got a leeway, really.
But
so,
what about those who afford?
So they afford.
Those who cannot afford, there was no wujub even in the first place. So there is no abrogation, there was no wujub. But those who can afford, according to the first ayah, they have to give sadaqah. According to the second ayah, necessity of the sadaqah is removed.
Even if they can afford it.
Even if they can afford. If they cannot afford, there was no wujub at all.
Indeed, yes.
Okay. For example, إذا ورد أكرم زيدان, respect Zayd. So it means that it's necessary because the command, Akram Zaydan. Then another dalil, another reference comes which abrogates necessity of respect. So what is abrogated is necessity, not permissibility and not preferability. So it's good and it's preferable to respect him, but it's not wajib. If they wanted you not to respect him, they should have said more. They should have not just said, there is no wujub. They should have said, don't respect him. Is it clear? Yulahadu alayh. Ayatollah Subhani has an objection. He says, this analysis is just semantic, it's logical, but linguistically, command cannot be analyzed into three things. Because as you remember, we said this again and again, Ayatollah Subhani believes that amr only indicates ba'th, pushing. And this pushing is removed, then nothing is left. You cannot say, there are three things. All these come together. Either pushing is there or pushing is not there. Is it clear? It's like, let me give you an example. If someone, for example, says, Mr. So-and-so was here 1 hour ago. Okay? And then you ask him, is he still here? He says, a car was passing by and I saw his head. So that person cannot say, okay, we know that head has gone. Maybe rest of body is still there. We say you cannot analyze it. Head goes with rest of body. Because you didn't see him as different organs. Did you get? Amr is one reality. According to Ayatollah Subhani, he says it's just pushing. When pushing is not there, you cannot say, okay, maybe still permissibility is there, maybe still, preferability is there. Okay? يلاحظ عليه أنه ليس للأمر إلا ظهور واحد. There is no zuhur, more than one zuhur for amr. Nothing is for amr except one zuhur, one apparent meaning. Zuhur means al-ma'na al-zahir, apparent or outward meaning. Is it clear? What is that? Al-ba'th. Nahw al-ma'mur bih. Pushing towards. Nahw means towards. Pushing towards what is commanded. Saleh means pushing towards prayer. Salat. Atu zakah means pushing towards giving zakah. Amma al-wujub فَإِنَّمَا يُسْتَفَادُ مِنْ أَمْرٍ آخر. Even if you remember, we said wujub is not understood from pushing. When there is no evidence, we say, okay, we have to do it. Otherwise, ba'as can be for istihbab. الوجوب يستفاد من أمر آخر وهو كون بعث المولى تماما موضوع لوجوب الطاعة ولزوم العمل بالأمر عند العقل والعقلاء. When Mawla says, do this, you have to assume that it is necessary. Because your master is asking you to do something, and unless you are sure that he would be happy if you don't do it, he would not mind if you don't do it, you have to do it. You cannot take it easy. When Mawla says you have to do something, you have to do it. فَإِذَا دَلَّ النَّاسِخ عَلَىٰ أَنَّ الْمَوْلَى رَفَعَ الْيَدَ عَنْ بَعْثِهِ. When the abrogating ayah indicates that your master has lifted his hand from ba'as, means he's no longer pushing you. فَقَدْ دَلَّ عَلَىٰ رَفْعِ الْيَدْ عَنْ مَدْلُولِ الْمَنْسُوخِ. So it means that the abrogated has lost its meaning. He has lifted his hand from the abrogated. So there is no reason for being committed to the remaining of permissibility or preferability. Because there is only one zuhur, only one meaning, وَهُوَ الْبَعْثْ نَحْوَ الْمَطْلُوبِ. And this zuhur is removed. There was no zuhurat muta'addida, there was no plenty of zuhur, plenty of outward meanings. So that we say one has gone, others remain. So, permissibility and preferability are two implications of pushing, and when pushing goes, its implications also go. Okay, this discussion is finished. We have a beautiful discussion now, another beautiful discussion. You have question? Okay. This discussion has also some practical outcomes. Samariya amaliyya. It has some practical fruit, practical outcome. Is commanding to command to do something a command to do that thing? Is commanding to command to do something, commanding to do that thing? For example, if A says to B to command C to do something, can we say it means that A has commanded the C to do that thing, or no?
Yes.
For example, yes. For example, Hadith says, Imam Sadiq alayhi salam says, and he quotes from his father Imam Baqir, إِنَّا نَأْمُرُ صِبْيَانَنَا بِالصَّلَاةِ إِذَا كَانُوا بَنِي خَمْسَ سَنِينَ. We Ahlul Bayt ask our children to say their prayer when they are 5 years old. فَمُرُوا صِبْيَانَكُمْ بِالصَّلَاةِ إِذَا كَانُوا بَنِي سَبْعٍ. You command your children to start praying when they are 7. So you don't start from 5, you say 7. Okay? Question. Muru. Muru means command, yeah? Amara ya'muru, mura muru. You command your children, muru sibyanakum bis-salah idha kanu bani sab'in. Ask your children to say the prayer when they are 7. Question is this. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam is asking us to ask our children to say prayer when they are 7. Imam Sadiq is asking us to ask our children to say the prayer when they are 7. Does it mean that Imam Sadiq is asking our children to say their prayer or not? What is the benefit of this question? Yes.
He's given the responsibility to us, not to the children.
Not to?
Not to the children. So he's given the responsibility to be, not to say.
Okay, but if the children do not listen, did they have disobeyed only their father, or they have disobeyed Imam Sadiq? Only father? Who said to father to say this?
As a child, they have disobeyed their father.
You know, look at this. If director of Hose says the deputy of education to tell students to do mubahisa. If you don't do mubahisa, whom you have disobeyed?
Yourself.
Only the deputy of education or also the director of Hose?
Yeah, but then we are not children.
But sometimes you act like children. It doesn't make difference. The question is not which. The question is.
Who has disobeyed whom?
Yes. The question is a command to command like commanding or not? It seems yes. It seems yes. So, now, when Imam Sadiq says to us to ask our children to say prayer, if we say commanding to command is a command, then it means that prayer for a person who is 7 years old is valid. Because salat without command is not salat. There must be amr, must be ma'murun bih. Because you cannot, innovate salat. You cannot create salat by yourself. Salat must have command. For example, you cannot say, I want to have, for example, a salat for opening, I don't know, the window. There must be a command, it has to be, we say, warid. It has to be mentioned. Okay?
Otherwise it's innovation.
It's bid'ah, it's a heresy, So, if we accept that commanding to command is a command, we say for children who are 7, we have a command from Imam, and Imam, of course, speaks on behalf of religion. If we say no, commanding to command is not a command, then it means that this child is saying prayer, but the command is only from his father. So it's not a valid salat. It would be a practice only. Because your father does not have the authority to issue command for salat. Do you understand? إذا أمر المولى فردا ليأمر فردا آخر بفعل. When the master asks a person to command another person to do something, بفعل, is the command which is issued from Mawla, from master, a command for that action or not? To explain the situation, let us give you an example. إن الشارع أمر الأولياء, awliya means parents. Awliya here means parents. Means walidain. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has asked, or prophet or imams on behalf of religion, to ask their children to pray. For example, there is a hadith, authentic hadith, روي بالسند الصحيح عن أبي عبد الله عليه السلام أبي قال إنا نأمر صبياننا بالصلاة إذا كانوا بني 5 سنين. We ask our children to say prayer when they are 5 years old. فمروا صبيانكم بالصلاة إذا كانوا بني 7. You ask your children to say the prayer when they are 7. Not as wajib, but you ask them so that they gradually get used to it, learn it. ففي هذا الحديث أمر الإمام الأولياء. Imam has asked parents to command their children to pray. So the question is, إن أمر الإمام يتحدد بالأمر بالأولياء. Does the command of Imam stop with the parents only, or goes further and reaches children? Are only parents commanded, or children are also commanded? يتحدد means it is limited, restricted to parents, or yatajawaz, goes further, exceeds and reaches command for prayer. If we say commanding to command to do something is also a command to do that thing, then the prayer of children is commanded, is something that Amr of Imam has belonged to it. Otherwise, it means this salat has no command. Muhassalul kalam, the conclusion is this. There is no doubt that children are commanded to say prayer. But the question is, are they commanded to say prayer only because of their parents, or they are commanded to say the prayer because of Imam? This is the question. The fruit, the outcome of this discussion appears in two cases. One, شرعية عبادات الصبيان. Are the worships of children شرعية, means مشروع? Are they legitimate? Are they legal? In the sense that they are recognized by religion. لو كان الأمر بالأمر أمرا بذلك الفعل تكون عبادات الصبيان شرعية. If we accept that commanding to command to do something is a command to do that thing, the ibadat of children becomes shar'i. It's religiously acceptable. وَإِلَّا تَكُونُ تَمْرِينِيَّةً. Otherwise it becomes just for practice. It's not a real salah. Second, please listen carefully about the second. Second what? Second fruit for these discussions. If the father commands his eldest son or child to command the youngest child to sell his car. So father has, say, two children. He says the eldest one to tell the youngest one to sell his car. The eldest one doesn't say to his youngest brother to sell the car. But the youngest brother from another source realizes that his father had told the eldest one to tell him to sell the car. Okay, now he sells the car. Is this purchase, this transaction valid or not? If we say that commanding to command is a command, this is valid. Because the father had asked the eldest son to tell the youngest son, so it means that the father has said the youngest son. But if we say commanding to command is not a command, so the eldest son had no command to do anything. Without permission of his father, he has sold this. Then it becomes fuduli. Means it needs the consent later. He has to approve it later. Did you get the point?
Yes.
It's a good fruit. Sweet, yeah? الثاني في صحة البيع واللزوم. Validity and luzum means this purchase is binding. They say binding, yeah? Means it's lazim. You have to accept it. فيما إذا أمر الوالد ولده الأكبر. When the father asks his eldest son to command the youngest son to sell his good, mata. Mata is good, like car, like anything. فَنَسِيَ الْوَاسِطَةِ. The one who was in middle. Who is middle? The eldest son. He forgets to tell his brother what father has said. فَنَسِيَ الْوَاسِطَةِ إِبْلَاغَ أَمْرِ الْوَالِدِ وَاتَّلَعَ الْأَصْغَرُ مِنْ طَرِيقٍ آخَرٍ. The youngest one from another way, he knows. He is aware of what is the command. اطلع عن طريق الآخر لأمر الوالد فباع المبيع. He sold it. If we say commanding to command to do something is a command to do that thing, so this bay, this selling, is valid and binding. Otherwise, it's fuzuli and needs permission. It's not binding. When the permission comes later, it becomes valid. Okay, what is now the right and the correct view? Al-Zahir, according to Ayatollah Subhani, it seems that أن الأمر بالأمر بالفعل أمر بذلك. Commanding to command to do something is commanding to do that thing. Because لأن المتبادر في هذه الموارد تعلق قرض المولى بنفس الفعل. What comes to our mind when we hear a command to do something is that Mawla wanted, his purpose is achieved with that action. The action is important, the action is wanted. And asking the first person to ask the second person was a way to make sure that that thing is done. So when Imam Sadiq says, tell your children to say the prayer, it means that he wants our children to say the prayer. But he tells us to tell them. كان أمر المعمول الأول طريقا للوصول. It was a way to reach to that action. من دون دخالة لأمره في حصول القرار. The command of the second person was not important. It was just a way to reach the action. What we wanted was action. But it was said indirectly. Okay, inshallah we continue next session. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin.